Hello everybody, welcome to number 27. I'm Jack. Today I'm in Reggie, my XJR, on my way to see a car that originally cost £75,000 plus options. Reggie, unfortunately, is already sold. I did want to keep this one a bit longer, but I had an offer from a viewer who saw him, wanted to buy him from me, and when there's an easy, no hassle sale like this, I just hate selling cars. I simply had to take it. So I needed to get a replacement. Jeremy, who is a viewer, got in touch a few weeks ago and said, look, I have this CL500. I'd be happy to let it go for, a good price to you because you're going to feature it on the channel and so on. And it could be good for your cheap luxury car series. So we agreed a price and he was due to drop it off to me about a week ago. However, the Luxo Barge lottery was not good to Jeremy, and the day before he was due to drop it off, that car developed a serious fault. Now, in a truly baffling case of man maths, even for me, I've decided to go ahead and buy it anyway. So we're on our way now to London, where the car currently is. When we get there, we'll take a look and I'll tell you more about it. And here it is. It looks like a lot of car for the money. So what we're going to do first is have a good look around, check out the general condition, and we're going to find out just what that big issue is that has made it quite so cheap. Then I'm also going to tell you why buying the least desirable S-Class coupe of all is, at least in my mind, a good idea. Okay, so let's start with the back of the car. And one of the main things that these suffer from, although they are aluminium bodied, you get paint reaction with the aluminium. So there's usually quite a lot of what looks like corrosion on the paintwork, which is just paint reaction. For example, you can see there, it's just starting up on that corner and there. But I have to say, they are usually far worse than this. Usually the whole bottoms of the doors, where the trims are, they are far worse than this one appears to be. There's a little bit of, I don't know if it's had a respray there or something, but from these angles it actually looks it looks really good, to be quite honest. Let's have a look around the front and see what that's like. I mean, the paintwork seems to be in generally pretty good condition. Lights look okay, the plastics aren't too faded. Maybe there's something going on this side. But no, look, wheels have clearly been refurbed recently. It's running matching Nexen tyres all round, which is fine. Yeah, for one of these, the paintwork really, for one of these at this sort of price, the paintwork is absolutely excellent. Now, there isn't that much that you can tell from these engine bays, but at first glance at least, there is nothing alarming in here. It's all pretty tidy, there aren't any significant leaks that can be seen. What is very nice to see is that all the tools are there and present in the boot. So again, just little hints that this car has been looked after at some point. So far then, no real clue as to what is going on. So it's all looking pretty good in here as well. And just check this out. There's a whole history folder, which is always a nice thing to see. So all the old MOTs there. And then Jeremy, the owner, has told me, I haven't totted it up, but there's £46,000 that has been spent in maintenance since it was new, which for one of these is probably about right. Look at that. If we look around it as well, the seats look, I kid you not, they look new. And you can tell when they've been sort of refurbed and recolonized and painted. I'm pretty sure that these haven't. I can't see, all the stitching looks fine. There's maybe a little bit of loose sort of stitching there. Tiny bit of wear, but that's about it. The rest of it, the woodwork is great, the buttons are great. This has that sort of sticky stuff that these suffered from as well. And there's a little bit of that going on here, but it's not too bad. And I know it can be cleaned up because I did that in my S series. It has the 5-speed gearbox. In terms of options, I'm not sure what this has. I think apparently maybe the wooden wheel. I don't know, but look at that. Leather everywhere. And it all looks, you know, if someone told you this was a 20,000 mile car, I don't think that you would try and argue with that. It looks amazing in here. Now, look, I looked at the old MOTs and there's nothing much there as well. It's got a clean pass for last year. A couple of years before, the only thing to flag up is that it had notices of sort of surface corrosion. Now, since then, Jeremy had a look. He said there's no holes in there. He's sort of gone in there, he's put hammerite, and for the last MOT, it passed with flying colours and no advisories. So I think that all that is left now is let's switch it on. Oh, there we go. And it's just come on, and that is why this car is so terribly cheap. The saloon got air suspension, which was amazing for comfort, but not so good for a sporty drive. So for the coupes, they came up with this, the ABC system, active body control. It is a hydraulic system, which is pretty complicated, but when it works, it is fantastic. You get incredible comfort and yet practically zero lean in the corners. However, when they do go wrong, their ability to drain your wallet is pretty legendary. Now, one good thing is that Jeremy's local specialist has already diagnosed the fault, so we know what is wrong with it. The bad news is that it's pretty much the worst thing that you could have. The hydraulic pump itself has failed, and the cost to fix? £1,500. Now, there isn't a lot of logic in what I've done here, because originally Jeremy was going to sell me this car for £2,000. So I have now offered him, and I was going to get, in theory, a working car. I've now offered him £500, which is, yeah, no money at all for such a huge car. But plus 1,500, we're back to the same amount, and I'm taking all the risk, the time, and everything else. But to me, it makes sense. It will make for a much more interesting story. Anyway, more on the fix and what we're going to do about that later on. First, I need to tell you why, to me, it makes sense to buy the least desirable of the CL coupes. Now, this is one of those big Mercs that hark back to the era when their priority was to pack as much technology into their flagship cars as possible, but not really worry too much about whether it would work or not. So these are incredible cars when they're running properly, not so good when they're not. Now, they have a multitude of issues, some of which I have already mentioned. The corrosion on the bodywork is one. Not as serious on the coupes because it doesn't lead to rust itself, but it's a bit unsightly and expensive to remedy. Aside from that, the electronics and all that technology does have a propensity to go wrong and is expensive to fix, the suspension probably being the biggest worry. So if they have such a bad reputation, why am I so keen to buy one now? Well, quite simply, when I bought my project car before, the Bismarck, I paid £900 on eBay. I think that was a year 2000 or 2001 car. It had a few issues, but overall, I absolutely loved that car. The amount of comfort that was included, the luxury that you had for very, very little money, I think with this class of car is unrivaled. So I am really keen to try one of the coupes, and these obviously have the different suspension system, but also to me, I think that they address one of the weaknesses of the saloon. The interior on those looks and feels quite cheap. On this, it feels much better built and it feels much more luxurious. Now granted, the issues that can happen are just as bad on the Coupé, but it is an incredible amount of car for very little money. So my plan now is to get them to fit a reconditioned pump. After that, we're going to take it to Mercedes main dealer and get them to give it a health check, and I'll find out if I have just completely wasted all my money or whether it was worth fixing or not. It's a bit of a half-assed way of doing things, granted, but the general condition is so good, it's so clean, that I think it is worth taking a gamble with this car, and surely when done with a reconditioned pump, it's probably going to be worth more than the £2,000 that I've put into it. Not much more, but maybe just enough for it to make sense. Do have a look at what happened when I got my W220. I also took that to Merck for a checkup and fixed quite a few things with it. Thank you all so much for watching. I really look forward to seeing you for the next video.